Now available in paperback and e-readers from SJS Direct. ISIS, House of Isis. The Goddess Next Door takes on a hustling Hotep high priestess in Harlem in this Afrocentric ISIS series adventure. Pick up ISIS, House of Isis at online booksellers today. Some people probably wonder why I make God-centered videos in addition to my comic book content, my men's issues content, and my African American fantasy and science fiction content. And the first reason why I make these videos is because as a follower of the living God, I don't want to see anybody's soul perish. Now, the second reason why I make these videos as related to God is because I do not see the black pastor doing his job. And when it comes down to this black pastor will say he has all these degrees from seminary schools and has learned the Bible and studied it backwards and forwards. However, when I take a look at his community, I don't see him bearing the fruit that Jesus talked about. And the reason why I don't see him bearing any fruit is because here in the South Bronx, as in many areas of the black community, we have churches on almost every corner, yet the black community still remains in poverty. Now, I know Jesus said that you will always have the poor with you, but it looks like this black community, in spite of being taught the gospel, I don't see people following the gospel. And one of the reasons why I don't see people following God and following his gospel is because the black pastor never went out of his way to teach those people the word of God. Because when I take a look at the black community and I see these single mothers going to church with their out of wedlock children, it's clear to me that the black community is not bearing the fruit that was mentioned in the gospel. Because Jesus said, "Ye shall know them by their fruit." And one of the reasons why we have so many thorns and briars in the black community is because these black pastors never sowed any seeds to lead to any fruit being bared in the black community. Now, when it comes down to this black pastor again, this black pastor is supposed to be one of the most educated men in the black community, but we don't see him teaching anything that anyone has seemed to learn out of this Bible. And that's because he's looking to entertain people, not educate people in the Word of God. And when it comes down to these black pastors, again, these guys will have people sitting in church for 2 to 3 hours, but then they come out just like they went in on Sunday, and that's what's leading to them participating in these dysfunctional behaviors from Monday to Saturday. And it's Monday through Saturday where people are supposed to be bearing the most fruit, but they're not bearing any fruit again because these black pastors are not teaching the Word of God and teaching people about having a relationship with the living God through his Son, Jesus Christ, and accepting Jesus Christ's gift of salvation. Now, when I make these videos, I want to make them so people can learn about the things the pastor is not preaching, because I believe the pastor is not preaching the things that people need to hear. Because when it comes down to the black pastor, he tells you what the black woman wants to hear, and what the black woman wants to hear is things that stimulate her emotions, not teach her how to live as a follower of the living God. Because when it comes down to your black pastor, he will never preach against feminism. He will never preach against the dogma of the strong, independent black woman. The black pastor will never preach against fornication, which is premarital sex or sex outside of marriage. When it comes down to the black pastor, he will not tell the black woman that she is out of her place, she is out of order, nor will he tell her that she is supposed to be in the role of the helpmeet and support to the man, and she is supposed to submit to the authority of the man, because this is God's natural order. And as part of God's natural order, she is supposed to be in that order after God, the creator of the universe, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who reigns over the earth and the universe, and the man who is the steward God established as given dominion over the earth and is supposed to care for the earth, and the woman who is supposed to be the helpmeet and support who cares for the children. Now, when it comes down to this black female, because of this black pastor looking to get mammon out of her instead of trying to teach her the word of God, your black pastor has supported her in her sinful ways. And when it comes down to this black pastor, he will not preach the word of God to her because he is not concerned about the black woman's eternal soul. No, when it comes down to the black pastor, all he's concerned about are the cares of this earth, the lust of the eye, and the pride of this life. And that's all your black pastor is concerned about. Now, as a follower of God, I am more concerned with the black woman's soul, and I do not want to see the black woman's soul perish. And that's why one of the reasons why I make these videos teaching the Word of God. Now, the other reason why I make these videos is to try to show people how easy it is to teach the Word of God, because when it comes down to the black pastor, he has all these degrees from these universities, and he has said that he's supposed to be so well studied in the Word of God. But if he's so well studied in the Word of God, then why isn't he teaching the Word of God in all of those churches on every corner? Because again, I look at the fruit he has bared in his community and his thorns and briars, and it shows me that he's not really concerned, again, with this black woman's soul or the souls of the people in the black community. And I do these videos to show people how easy it is, because if an unemployed guy who doesn't have that much of an education can go and teach this Word of God in less than 10 to 11 minutes in a video, then why can't that black pastor do the exact same thing when he has a congregation and a pulpit and is preaching these sermons that are 2 to 3 hours long? If I can do this in less than 10 minutes, then your black pastor should have been able to do this for the last 50 years by himself in that church. Because if he had did this job in the church, the black community would not be in the dire straits it was in, and the black woman would not be spiritually lost, teaching her children a dysfunctional religion of a false Christ who has them believing in a white Jesus, and the whole concept of white supremacy, instead of believing in the living God, who told us in his word that God is not a man and that God does not lie. And the reason why the pastor doesn't want to do this, again, is because the pastor has made a spiritual compromise with that false Christ in order to get mammon for himself, and he is not concerned with the soul of this black woman. And because he has made that compromise, this is why your black community is in the dire straits it is in, the sad state of affairs that it's in, and is falling completely apart. Because you can't get the blessings of the living God if you don't have a relationship with the living God. And the person who keeps black women and the black community from having a relationship with the living God is the black pastor. And your black pastor does not want to take 5 to 10 minutes to preach to the black woman and the people in the black community, because the black pastor, again, does not care about the black community. All he wants to do is make money for himself and then decide to go live in the suburbs with his white God and serve his white God and be around his white God, because he doesn't care about black people's souls, because black people's souls mean nothing to him, because at the end of the day, he is more about the cares of this world than he is of the next one. And because the black pastor is more concerned with the cares of this world, he could care less about any of these black people in this black community. And that's one of the reasons why I go out of my way to make these videos, because again, I want to show people how easy this is, because if someone just does and teaches, they would be considered great in the kingdom of heaven. But if someone just teaches, they would be considered the least in the kingdom of heaven. And as just a ordinary guy who's been out of work, as a guy who understands that he's just a sinner and just like everybody else and has fallen short in the eyes of God, I feel that if I do try to teach, maybe I can be the least in the kingdom of heaven, and that's something to aspire to, if anything else. If I can't get to the great point, I will try to do the least. And I figure in the least, if I care about somebody's soul like I care about my own, then I'm going to make that effort to try to teach people how to have a relationship with the living God, something your black pastor hasn't been doing for 50 years, even though he has advanced college degrees that are supposed to teach him about the Word of God, and he has a church and a pulpit, and it seems like he cannot, in spite of all those things, he cannot make an effort to do what I do in 10 minutes when he has a church where he's sitting there for close to 3 hours. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my books, you can go over to Amazon.com by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.